Hi, I'm Preetipls, Singapore's top politically correct person. Just kidding lah, who do you think I am? So today I'm here at Bukit Batok and I only want to talk to one person, Dr. Chee Juan. Let's go! Nobody asked, literally nobody asked that. So today I have with me Dr. Chee Juan, Secretary General of the Singapore Democratic Party. Hi Dr. Chee.
Hi.
Good morning, thanks for being here with me in beautiful Bukit Batok.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
So I just have a couple of questions for you. My first question is, what is your relationship with this beautiful constituency?
Well, I contested in the elections in 2016, and since then I've just been coming back here, to this mall in front of us, to all the coffee shops. So I just have this nicely beginning to get to know everybody and sinking my roots in here, my political roots in here. So it's been a good 4 years.
So I have to ask for all the foodies out there, what is one food recommendation, a must try?
You've got to go to that, there's this lor mee, and it's at block 155. You go there, you've got to just stand in line, it's worth it. I tried it once, you won't regret it.
If there's a queue, you know it's worth it.
Yes, that's right. You join the queue. You don't know what it is, but just join the queue.
That's so second nature to us lah. So honestly, don't complain, just join the queue and get the lor mee. Because your manifesto centers around 4 yes, 1 no.
Yeah.
I came up with my own 4 yes, 1 no, and I just want to see what you think about it.
All right.
Okay, so let me share with you. So my first yes, free public transport for all the atoks in Bukit Batok. My second yes, all Singaporeans to have a 1-day work week. My third yes, yes to reservists for only the Boys to Men class. And my fourth yes is yes to minimum wage in Singapore. And there's only one no, and the one no is no to racism in Singapore. So what do you think about it?
If you stand for the elections here, I'll vote for you.
Oh wow, wow. Back to the your real manifesto, not my fake news one. Your campaign is all about 4 yes is 1 no. And the 1 no is actually no to a 10 million population. But this could be perceived to some people as xenophobic. So for the people who aren't Singaporean but who do come here and contribute to our economy and the very important parts of our social fabric, how would SDP also protect their interests?
First, I just want to let everybody know that our call for a smaller population does not extend in any way at all to a tax on the persons that are here or are potentially going to come in. Our concern has always been at the policy level. We have a situation where the rulers, the powerful, the clique, the elite are using the vulnerable to make the vulnerable even more vulnerable. And I say this is maybe a clever quip, but it's a very serious problem when you use foreigners from overseas, especially from poorer countries. They are in a very vulnerable state because they're just looking for economic survival. Then you make the vulnerable in Singapore and Singaporeans here who are really just struggling to make ends meet. You pit the two together, and then you say who can accept lower wages, and it's a race down to the bottom. And it's something that I hope Singaporeans can accept, that we're not. We want to protect both. We're all human beings. We want to make sure that the powerful don't always capitalize on the weak and make them even more life even more a struggle for them.
Yeah, and I think that in Singapore sometimes we just forget how to be human.
We measure everything in dollars and cents and GDP, and there's a saying, we know the price of everything but the value of it, so and it's just been driven so hard by the government. I think it's time that we begin to look at things which are just a little more to do with humanity, and I think we can all be better for it and be happier. I know it's just so cliched, but really, happiness doesn't come from just being rich. The equation is not always there.
So my next question is a bit more lighthearted. If you, in a parallel universe, if you weren't running in politics, what would you be doing?
I like to think that I up on stage and then belting out these number one hits and so on. But given my, I tried it. Not that I didn't try it, but it just went flat. And the first people to tell you, my kids, please don't pop up, please don't.
I mean, they're telling the truth, right? They're kids. They can't be lying to you. So gotta listen to them.
Just be a bit more supportive, lah.
I mean, okay, honestly, I think you have an amazing voice. So I would think in a parallel universe you'll be a radio DJ. But then again,
yes.
Who wants to work at MediaCorp?
You're not talking about those DJs in radio stations. This zip. What would you call those again?
Like club DJs.
Like club DJs. I could do that.
Yeah, you could. I mean, will you be singing when you do that? That's the question. Hopefully we get to hear that. So I have another really important question that I really was probably the most excited to ask you about. So I have many fans from the LGBTQ plus community, and I'm really sure they will want me to ask you, when do you think Singapore will finally be able to repeal 3778?
You know, I think it's something that the people will have to answer. Right now, I'll be very honest with you. It's still a very divisive situation. The time when the society is ready is, I think, for Singaporeans to answer. At some point, you know, people will have to decide.
Now it's time for an even heavier question. Are you a cat or a dog person?
Am I going to get in trouble for this one here? I mean, for me, just dogs are you know, you come back and then they're there, their tails are wagging, and you know, I've seen some really cute cat photos, but you know, I had dogs, and then for me, dogs were just German Shepherds. And I think I was part of the German Shepherd Club once, and just the loyalty, just the handsomeness of the dog and everything. I'll take them out for their runs and everything. And a couple of times I bumped into the late Mr. S.R. Nathan out on the East Coast, and I was running them. It was a lot of fun, and I trained them and had a great time with it. I don't know, can you train cats?
I mean, I think if you try hard enough, maybe.
You know, there's a saying, you know, trying to get Democrats together, and you're talking here, members of the SDP, is like herding cats. Just cannot get them together to do any one thing altogether. So there you go.
This is probably the most controversial question of the lot. For like young people out there who want to get into politics, what would you advise them to not do? Not do, huh? I suppose you look up some of my old videos, I suppose. It's so hard to I've always thought of it what we should do. Right? And I'm not trying to evade your question, but not to do is something which then you know, you have all these boundaries, and I just hate to kind of prescribe that kind of approach. I just think, you know, especially our young people, do what you think is right, and then you find out, right, or what's wrong. I think for a long time, for us Singaporeans especially, we're told what to do and what not to do, what to think, and after a little while it gets so enclosed, and that's not healthy for us. I just want people to go out and try new things, right? Even in the political arena. Years ago, I wouldn't be sitting here with it's not nice. You don't have a nice backdrop and you know, young people. Why would we want to talking to them? That kind of thing. But you know, things are evolving all the time, and then styles change and so on and so forth. That's why I say always let's push the boundaries and see. Back to politics and back to people you know in politics. So, who is someone you have a lot of respect for in politics? This person can be from any party.
Sure. When I look back at some of the things that the early generation of politicians in Singapore, and I have tremendous admiration for those people who fought so hard. Somebody like Lim Chin Siong, somebody like who's passed away already, somebody like Chia Tai Po, who's still alive, Mr. Said Zahari, who's also passed away. These people really stood for what they believed in. They wanted a democratic Singapore, and they wrested power from the British. And then, you know, internal politics in Singaporean politics, they were in prison. They went through, I mean, Chia Tai Po was there in prison for 23 years and placed under house arrest for another 9 years, so total 32. People don't know that he was in prison longer than Nelson Mandela. So these are the things that, and all they wanted him to do was you confess. Just say that you're a communist, and he refused to. He said he wasn't. He wanted a democratic Singapore, you know, and for that, he has my utmost respect.
I think a lot of like first-time voters out there, we have so much research to do. We need to like Google all these people. We need to know what they stood for.
No, I'll just add, they were in their 20s. Can you believe it? In their 20s, and they were standing there, they're rallying the crowd. They were saying we need to, and then, you know, all these things were just there, and they plunged right into it, and they knew what they wanted. Hats off to them. Hats off.
I think this is the perfect time to ask you. We know that the elections puts a lot of pressure on candidates. So what have you been doing to take care of your own mental health?
For me, something I like to do but don't have, and I can tell every candidate will tell you the same thing. It's sleep. you average like 3-4 hours, and then you just got to be out here again. But then it's something which I think all of us, we got into this with our eyes wide open, and I think we just need to keep up with it. But it's the people give us a lot of strength, mental strength to go on. So it's always good to come out and meet with everybody.
I'm guessing also because it's a super rushed election. I can only imagine the amount of sleep you're actually getting. Actually, Dr. Chee, I've talked to you for so long, but I don't even think I've asked you if you know who I am. So
I've read, I've got kids who are just around that age as well. So
Yeah.
they tell me, we talk to them, they say, do you know this and this? Okay.
Like while they tell
I'm
you
getting
about
to know
your
them.
singing, they also tell you, Preetipls. But okay, let me tell you a little bit about what I do.
Sure.
So I do comedy on the internet, and it's mainly satire and social commentary on a lot of the things that go on in Singapore. So last year I made a rap video with my brother, and we called out like racism made in the media industry, especially like brownface in a national advertisement. And we were investigated by the police, and now we have a 2-year conditional warning. So enough about me, but just yesterday, Workers' Party candidate Raisa Khan had 2 police reports made against her for voicing out her opinions on the alleged double standard and how minorities are treated in Singapore. So as someone who has experienced a character assassination online by the ruling party, what are your thoughts on this, and what is some advice you might have?
I've always felt that when we look at someone, what do we see? And if we see skin color, I don't know, I'm just not saying this is because it's a popular thing to say, but how do we ultimately treat our fellow human beings? Do we see them as Indian? But sadly, that's very much reinforced in our mindsets, right? You take off your IC, and what do you see then? And this is what I'm saying, how does that define us? So the other day I just met someone, German father, right? Singaporean mother. You know what the IC says on race? German. And what race is German? I have absolutely no idea, but we still do it all the time. And I say this, I've said it many times before, it is the most repugnant thing that for my fellow party members, Paul Tambaya, Daman, for them to have to go down and get a certificate to certify the race that they're in before they can stand in this constituency. Seriously, what is that? Right? You certify goods, you certify stock, right? You certify human beings. I don't. Instinctively that makes me really, really upset when we don't see people as people, we don't see Singaporeans as Singaporeans, we keep seeing them as CMIO, right? You know what that is. And to me, I don't accept all this, the government PAP trying to tell us that, oh, we must not be racist. That it's just not. And then you have the president that they reserve for one particular race. And what is that all about? Singaporeans instinctively, they will know who they want to vote, right? Our first chief minister was David Marshall. He was not Chinese. At that time, Singaporeans were not, a lot of them were not English educated, but the Chinese voted for him. He became our first chief minister. You remember Mr. Jayaraman? People voted for him. So, all this very artificial divide, now I don't buy it. It's a very racialistic kind of politics that I think we're all the poorer for it if we continue on down this road. It's sad.
So a lot of people online say that, Dr. Chee, you're very serious. You don't smile a lot. So, could you tell us a joke?
You're gonna make it even worse for me. How much time have you got? I don't want to see. Okay. Well, there's this one thing that's been. Well, you know how the PAP likes to brag about how well they've done things and so on and so forth, right? So they went to this place that's a bit more rural, right? Agricultural, and it's more like a dairy place. And of course, they don't speak English. So one of these PAP politicians ran over and to give a speech, and they said, "Oh, we're going to teach you how to build up this place, right? Like what we did back home in Singapore. So, what we're going to do is build you HDB flats that will always, the price will always increase." And then the crowd over there was saying, listened to him and said, Mguala, Mguala. So, you know, he was really excited. He just started getting on. And he said, okay, we're going to have CPF for you, you know, and then after a little while, we're going to let you withdraw it. Mguala, Mguala. They were really getting excited. And then after that, he says, oh, you know, we're going to make sure that you all will have jobs, you know. Mguala, Mguala. And so he was really excited, he was really pleased with the speech. He said, then the village chief came down and took him around. And along the way to for lunch, you know, they had to navigate the field because, well, you know, cows and everything, and there were piles of you know what.
Yeah.
And then the guy was saying, what's all those? And then the guy turned and says, Mguala, Mguala. So, no. Was that good enough?
That was okay. I mean, you got me to laugh, so that was good. So you want to take my job or what? You know?
Look, I'm seriously contemplating this line already after this, you know. But
I honestly think people are gonna be so happy without you're smiling right now. But anyways, jokes aside, I actually watched your video on Instagram where you talked about how people say you don't smile enough, and you said this one thing that really resonated with me. So you said my facial expression changes, but the values and beliefs in my heart don't. So thank you for fighting for what you believe in and for always speaking your mind. I think that is so important for the first time voters especially to see that and to realize that they can also do so much with the platforms they have, and their voices are so important. And my final question is, what is one thing you want to say to all the first time voters out there?
you know, my daughter just turned 21 and she's going to vote, and so she was asking me about some of the issues that she should be looking at, and I don't tell her who to vote for because I want her to develop that kind of thinking, think for herself. And this is really what I want to tell younger Singaporeans. All this talk about jobs and so on, that is so important, yes. But the one thing that I can tell you that we cannot do without as a society is that ability to communicate, that ability to talk to each other, and because at the end of the day, human beings, we're all social animals, right? The one thing that if they punish you, what do? They lock you up so you don't communicate with other people, and you find that it's a very heavy, that's a heavy censure. So I want people to understand that going forward, freedom of speech, freedom of the media, freedom of thought. They're not Western ideas. They are not Western ideas. You can trace back history, and it came from from the East, but they codified it, and then it became for them, entrenched in the Constitution and so on and so forth. But we instinctively, we're all human beings, right? We feel pain when we're cut, we bleed, that kind of thing. So don't forget our fundamental functions as a society. Those are really important. So never stop thinking about these freedoms. Guard it jealously. And I know these are not issues that we'll bring up during elections because they're not sexy issues, if you will, right? But still, if you're thinking about things like that, that's how we're going to be able to flourish as a society, to be able to care for one another, to be able to get ahead. And I come back to this again. When you look at what you're doing right now, right? All these came from free societies, the ability to innovate, so that the whole freedom to be able to think and to be able to express ourselves, those are important qualities that we should not overlook.
So my fellow first-time voters out there, think about all these things before you head to the polls this Friday. And thank you so much for your time, Dr. Chee. Thank you. And I really hope to see you in Parliament. So Bukit Batok, y'all know what to do. So thank you once again, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video.
So I'm smiling right now. So
it's a wide smile, okay? Take it. Soak it in, guys.
Thanks so much.